Hello everyone, and welcome back to Fablehaim Iratus, Wrath of the Necromancer on Eternal Harvest 5, the greatest difficulty the game has to offer. We resume the rise of the Supreme Lord of the Dead, where we left it off last time. We're gonna kill ourselves a Dhampir. But before we get around to that, I have two things to talk about from last time. First things first, I don't know why I never put these numbers together, but Solus, our resident mathematics expert, has broken down a bit of the math behind the Dhampir's Wrath abilities. And for the magical attack, it is 5 times at 30% of her attack, which total roughly comes out to 150%. Well, not roughly, it is 150% attack. And the physical version, the Sundering Squall, is the exact same. It's 3 times 5. So, well, 3 times 50. So it's 150 again. I don't know why I never put in my brain that those are equal. So if you're using this just for the raw damage, you should use the one that you want to remove the armor resistance. Of course, because you hit more times with the magic thing, you remove the resistance, then you hit 4 times instead of just 2 times with no mitigation, but you get the point. As for their upgrades, after he broke this down, I'm pretty confident that you just always go for the Wrath reduction. Because the upgrade for the Pain Blast brings it to 5 times 40% damage, which is 200%. And the physical one brings it from 3 times 50 to 3 times 65, which brings it to 195%. So I guess no matter which one of these you go with, they're pretty much always comparable. And you usually just want to use the one that you need the removal of the mitigation for. But of course, when we are doing this sort of build, whether it's the Ashes or the Crowpaw or the Spider thingy-maboober, hitting more times is always good. Always good. It just feels weird that I'm not scaling attack, so I appreciate Solus sharing that bit of wisdom. And attack will be scaled eventually, but it's going to be like the last thing. Because, as you may have noticed, things hit pretty hard. So I don't want Israfel or Red Sonja to fall over like poor Carmilla, who fell over many times. I'm hoping that the block and ward, courtesy of the unstable armor, will just be enough to get us there. We, of course, can put on more block and ward if we get lucky. But we will see. We will see. We also found the Talisman of Power last time, courtesy of a quest. Give me a quest. And I do really like the Talisman of Power, but we will keep with the Archmage Pendant to regenerate our mana, because that's going to be very important soon, because we are saving our experience for Infectious Lunacy, which is going to be very fun, because this does affect the damage of the Ashes. So we pop this and our Dhampirs just go off into the sunset. I also spoke last time or the time before about YOLO Solo, which is whenever you have we don't have it, unfortunately, the Boiling Blood, which makes it so you get a bunch of buffs if you are for each unfilled squad slot. It allows a character to go out by themselves. Very nifty. And I mentioned at that time that the Vampire Fangs, I felt, were the only way to have that character survive, because it will heal you for 15% of the damage you deal. But Scott correctly pointed out that as long as you are fighting an enemy that purges buffs repeatedly, like the last boss, then you can kind of forego the Vampire Fangs and use instead the Ancient Vampire Blood. This is a potion that basically gives the creation the effects of the Vampire Fangs. Target menu restores vigor equal to 15% of damage dealt. It can be purged off of you. I'm 99.5% certain that it can. So that's worth keeping in mind. But this frees up that second item slot that is so absolutely valuable. And Scott's recommendation was the Negation Orb, which we actually have, making the character immunity buffs, because one downfall of the YOLO Solos is definitely any enemy that can stun you. And I have lost many a YOLO Solo fallen Dhampir to that. May they continue to rest in pieces. So with all that out of the way, it is time to do our first combat of today. We have double Elven Ranger Dhampir and Elite Elven Scout. And I ain't scared of no ghost. You have 5 block and ward. Okay. Well, hello. You're me. You look awfully similar. I wonder if they're still bugged. So at one point in time, I can't remember which position it is, but the Dhampir, specifically the red skin, I imagine it would work for both models, right? But their legs were like bugging out. Like not the animation, but the model of the leg was bugging out. Don't know if that's still the case. I think I'm just going to kill the Rangers and move on. So the Dhampir is exactly the same as us, except not quite as good. You saw there her multi-attack. Her version of Terror Blast is just a singular attack. I think her physical one is 3 attacks, though. So that's worth remembering.
Make them suffer.
But aside from that, she's pretty much the exact same thing. Also, her stance is super terrifying. So if we can avoid doing anything with that, I'm going to. I could interrupt this stance. No, I can't. She's too far. But I'm pretty much just going to kill... Yeah, see? I don't know why they changed that, but I do appreciate it, because being hit 5 times basically eviscerates wards, and... well, we do that ourselves, so I hope you're not surprised.
Your frail bodies fail.
So one thing we are saving towards, as we watch everything burn down around us, one thing we are saving towards is a third Fallen Dump. This is terrifying. If you hit her, she counters for 134 damage. Yeah, no thank you. We are saving towards a third Fallen Dhampir because we, of course, were gifted a third Ashes of the Burned Witch, courtesy
My kingdom comes
of the Dark Gods of RNG. I couldn't remember if that was a Cured Vets thing or a coffin. I think it's a coffin that gave it to us. Alley-oop. I was going to cut her head off, but I'm pretty sure I need to interrupt this. Should have waited. Okay. It's fine. There is something I do want to test, but I don't think I'm going to test it. And that is, if I use the Dhampir to hit the Dhampir, if I use the Fallen Dhampir to hit the Dhampir, and then enter my own stance, she should counterattack when I hit her with the stress thing. So the Dhampir will then counterattack, and then because I'm in my stance, I should counterattack? Is that how that works? I just think of a delay. Oh. Well. Guess I didn't too. But yeah, see, the physical one is a multi-hit. They didn't take away all of her power. Just a lot of it.
Savor these last few heartbeats.
I'm going to delay the Baron's turn here, just in case she re-enters the stance. Yep. Wow, it's like I've played this game before. It does feel really good to be good at a game, you know? To know what's going to happen, to be able to foresee the future and use it to your advantage. I always get really nervous whenever I record anything that's not something I've been playing for a while. Like, for example, the Sword of the Necromancer prologue, which I had so much fun playing. I'm definitely doing a series. That comes out on January 28th, so the series will begin on the 29th, and it's basically like Zelda with necromancy. It's awesome, and I loved every second of playing it. And I'm pretty sure I'm just going to, like, make Iratus references the entire time I play that game. Unfortunately, the necromancy bit isn't quite as permanent as in Iratus, so I can't really name them or do anything with them. They're just kind of there to, you know, be a distraction. But anyway, we have 3 talent points, so let us pick up Infectious Lunacy. All minions deal 10% more damage for 3 rounds, and spell power additionally improves that damage by 0.25%.
Rivers will run red.
And it costs 40 mana, so we're going to be dumping our mana. But this percentage-based thing does affect the Ashes and the Crowpaw. So, to help support this build, we are going to be taking... Oh, don't do it. Little sword, don't do it. So this is the Medal of Betrayal. This is the Fallen Dhampir's item. The Fallen Dhampir receives a buff that reduces the damage they receive by 5% each time they take damage, stacking up to 8 times. This is basically... Their feature is the same thing, except it's, instead of damage mitigation, it is +1 attack and +1 dread whenever they take damage. And the OG YOLO solo build was Fallen Dhampir with Boiling Blood and Medal of Betrayal. Because she was the only one there, so she would always be hit guaranteed. And then that would reduce the damage she would take, stacking up to 40%. which was a lot. That was the OG build, but it relied entirely on her counter stance, basically, her counterattack stance. So any stuns just absolutely destroyed her. And I lost many to that. Feels bad. But what we're going to be picking up is the Hourglass of Doom. Each time Iratus uses an active talent, the Reaper increases Iratus' spell power by 12 until the end of battle, stacking up to 5 times. This is very good. Very good. There's even a meme where you go quad Reaper, all of them with the Hourglass, and you just literally finger of death everything to death. It's pretty funny. Also, a fun side note about the Hourglass of Doom. When you use a talent, the talent's activation will get the plus 12 spell power buff that's going out on the Reaper. So it'll be proactively buffed. I think that's the word. I really want this book, but I'm not going to take it. I want the Hourglass. Now the question is then, I replaced the lantern, don't I? Yeah. By lantern. Be aggressive. No dying allowed. So, with that in tow, we'll continue with the Halo for now. We're going to be doing our next Elite Squad combat. Elite Barbarian, Elite Swordsman, Elite Rogue, and Elite Bard. What a terrifying... Actually, I'm not that afraid. If we feel really bold, we could creepy doll, but I don't think we're going to.
Now I will make mortals tremble before me. Well, even more than previous.
We'll use the Skull Torch, just why not, really? Why not? Why not? Why not? I do kind of wish we still had the Mutant Claw, but... ah well. 'Twas lost. Now the question becomes, do we... yeah. I was gonna say the question becomes, do we go after the Swordsman as always? I think the answer is yes. We'll let the Bard do her thing. Do I? The question, actually, now the question is, do I do this? If we... let me be perfectly clear. Perfectly clear. The safe thing to do right now is to remove his wards and then dispel. That's the safe thing to do. That's what you should do in this situation, I believe. But hey, I'm here to kill.
Madness manifest.
25.5% damage increase. Let's see how it goes, shall we? 21 true damage. I guess I'm gonna give this to Ace to fuck out. The horned one's not in too much danger yet. So we pretty much hope that this is enough dot damage to kill him outright before... oh, it was so close. It's right there. Oh well. Rude Bard. Rude Bard. Alright, we'll give our Angel the kill, and then we'll move on.
Extinction of life.
I mean, I guess I could have given it to the... I should have given it to the Baron. Meh. Meh. We'll start chipping away at the Bard. He's probably going to remove her debuffs, but maybe not. We're also going to have to start working on the Rogue, soon TM. And I might use Israfel to do that, because she cannot miss, which is pretty important to killing the Rogue. Splitting our damage is a little risky, just a tiny bit risky, but not the end of the world. So, Israfel, do your not missing thing. And then Red Sonja, continue pestering the Bard. We'll see what the Rogue decides to do here. Alright, goodbye. Unfortunately, it's not a kill, but the fire should kill him? I should have faded that, honestly. Yeah. Anyway. I'll get a second chance. I'm sure. Almost. He almost made it. Owie. Alright, now I don't have to fade it.
Being born was your first mistake. Opposing me? your last.
We also, spell power. Oh, it doesn't reduce this anymore? Did it ever? I thought the move spells could be reduced. But anyway. The benefit of having basically duplicates is that we can move them back and forth to manipulate the AI. But we aren't doing a whole lot of manipulation. Is it really manipulation if the barbarian just can't reach you? We utilize positioning to our advantage. That's what we do. Is that a healing?
My will is a tide
Another glutton
that will
stung.
wash away your pathetic civilizations.
I wouldn't say the glutton stung is going to see much, if any, use this run. Because I do love gambling. Baron Rivendare has reached another rank. Well, another threshold. And another rank, I suppose. So have some vigor. Max vigor. I love seeing that. Red Sonia? Some vigor for yourself? Are you interested in some vigor, madame? Israfel is probably just going to wait to max out vigor. And the Horned One. More vigor. I hope that you can sense the trend that's going here. We need more health. No dying allowed. Now, I was thinking about our path here before we began. And the Soul Spring, I guess, would be like the safe option. We could collect more souls so we can buff our Dampier sooner. But we're going to gamble.
Hardly an inspiring leader, but the dead care not for morale.
The Sacrificial Altars and Girovets have both been particularly good to us this run. So, I'm not going to stop. Don't stop while you're ahead. The Raven. Okay, this one is the worst so far. But you can't always hit him. When receiving damage, the minion gains 4 evasion until the end of combat, cannot stack more than 5 times. So this is, at its peak, plus 20 evasion. There are some characters that this is okay with. The Shade, who has the counterattack build, and the Banshee, who relies on evading for her healing and survivability. The only concern really is that evasion overall is kind of weak on these really high Eternal Harvest levels because of how much accuracy everything has.
Now I will make mortals tremble before me. Well, even more than previously.
So it's kind of hard to fit that in, really, in my opinion. I don't think, of all the evasive characters, the only one that I think has enough to get the job done is the Wraith. That's it. No one else has enough. No one else has anywhere near enough. Just the Wraith.
Hope there will still be enough left to reanimate.
The Wraith is in an excellent spot, by the way. If you're a fan of stress builds or evasion builds, the Wraith is so strong. Of course, he does require quite a few points to get all the block and ward that's required to boost his evasion, and then, of course, getting evasion itself. But, you know, it's a late game thing. I suppose it could work early on as well, sort of. It's just you'd encounter a few enemies that can obliterate you before you've accumulated enough evasiveness. Ow! 69, nice. You know, some people are into that. Huh. Okay. I guess I'm just going to try and burn the dump here. Because this is happening. And, well, it's not the nicest thing in the world. Let's use some of our mana, shall we? There's no penalty for doing it.
Carve open their husks.
Well, there's no penalty yet. There will be. Don't you worry your pretty little heads. The penalty is coming. I was talking with... Was it you, Brian? I was talking with someone in the comments about the difficulty. And each floor, I think, has its own unique difficulty, right? The first floor is, in my opinion, the hardest, just because the beginning of the game is the most challenging.
This will be your end.
Like, once you have... They made it a lot easier, actually, with how they kind of extended how many 3-person fights you get. But we're taking a sizable amount of damage, aren't we? Well, we're bound to. I could delay and then let's try that. They extended the amount of
Take
3
everything from those you defended.
3 enemy combats. And by that extension, they have made... Oh, I can't move. It made the beginning quite a bit easier to get out of. But while you're still trying to reach that magical threshold... Oh. Awkward. I was totally gonna try and reap that for the healing, but now I'm gonna reap this. Oh yeah, and spell power reduces this cost, which is pretty nifty. Anyway, first floor.
A sad display for mortal kind.
You're trying to get your foothold, and that's really the hard part about the first floor, right? And there are some enemies that are really annoying, like if you don't have a whole lot of ward for the Doomsayer, then that can really mess you up, and the Demolitions Expert if you can't manipulate his positioning, so on and so forth. The Alchemist Ring, 25% chance that Iratus will not expend a potion when using it. I have never once used that, and I don't really care. Boop, boop. Boop. I'll talk about the other floors once we return to combat. But in the meantime, show me the coward's foot. We have the leg cuffs. Of these three items, I think the leg cuffs are the best. It makes it so the minion cannot be moved. It's important to remember that if a minion cannot be moved, their stance cannot be interrupted by repositioning. It of course can still be interrupted, but it has to be by a stun or a sleep or a stance interruption ability, of which there aren't very many. Usually enemies mess with your stance by moving you. So, pretty useful thing. Also, some creations, such as the Ghoul, moves about a tremendous amount. Like, all of her abilities make her move, except for her Wrath and her Buffy thingy. So leg cuffs to prevent that, pretty nifty. The Bloated Flesh. At the start of its turn, the minion restores 12 vigor for each unfilled squad slot. We saw this last time, and I mentioned that this isn't a lot of healing, and I still don't think it is. The Horned One got poked with a non-crit for 69. And this is 36 at the start of your turn. I still don't think it's much, but. When we tried the Dark Knight cheese on the final boss, we had so much armor and stuff that this plus 36 each turn probably would have let us push it. Probably would have been enough to get us there. So, you know, situational. The Vulture's Feather, the minion receives 16 luck, 18 accuracy, and 12 evasion when an ally dies. I hate Zac builds. I don't know how good this is. It might be okay.
Oh, for my future kingdom.
Shield Maiden, Gargoyle, Dhampir, and Elite Bard. Okie dokie. I'm killing them all. Good plan. Good plan. So after the first floor is the second floor. Obviously, that's how counting works. But, I think that the second floor is typically the hardest. And it's because you've just kind of overcome your hurdle. You've just started. Lol, I baited that. I didn't even mean to. You've just started to piece your build together. And you all of a sudden face this giant hurdle that can just swat you out of the sky. It's like you're an airplane
Make them suffer.
that just took off from the runway. And then all of a sudden you have this torrential storm that just formed as you're climbing in your altitude. That's pretty much what it is. I'm going to interrupt this. I'm going to kill the bard. And I think that's what makes the second floor the hardest, because some of the enemies can just swat you down and put you in your place. Like the Berserker, if you're doing a stress build, that's going to catch you off guard. I mean, unless you know it's coming, I suppose. 190, you are DED dead. Good job. The flamethrowers, they require a lot of control to not immediately destroy you. The oracles and marksmen have marks that are super annoying, or musketeers, that's what they're called. That's the real name. Or is it?
I didn't think it would be this easy.
I forgot that redirects. Owie. So I think the second floor is pretty much usually the hardest, the most challenging. And then there is the third floor, which is where we are currently, the Mercenary Barracks. And historically, I think because it's kind of caught between the second floor and the fourth floor, both of which have their own difficulty spikes, historically, I have given zero respect to this floor.
There's no sun up in the sky. Bony weather incoming.
None. No respect. And I learned the dangers of that in our last run. It was a lesson I obviously forgot. But I learned that the rogues are pretty spooky. Pretty spooky. And of course, this Dhampir, if you don't realize her stance thing is happening, it deals 134 damage. That one-shots Red Sonja. And Israfel. Well, not Israfel. She has a little more health. But it one-shots Red Sonja. It would have one-shot the Baron, except for we upgraded him last time with more health. You get the point. There's a lot of threats here that don't seem like threats on lower difficulties. So,
your frail bodies fail
it can be
you.
deceptive. Deceptively hard, I think, is a good description of the third floor. Do I want to keep going, though? We've all played this game before, right? Or at least seen a run. I know some people don't play and just watch, which I appreciate. I am honored that you have chosen me to live vicariously through. No. Oh, I can't interrupt that, huh? Okay, good to know. I could have read this, but I was too busy, in my monologue, which I'm going to continue. So the fourth floor, I'll try and be a little vague for those who haven't seen any of the runs. So the fourth floor is the first floor where
No mercy.
we encounter perhaps magical threats. Like there's been the random magic threat like the Doomsayer on the first floor. Does this floor even have one? Not really. Occasionally there's been some magical threats, but the fourth floor is where the magic threat escalates. And there are counters to using abilities, which is something I'm probably going to run into.
Mine is the winning
Because I love using spells. We even picked up the Hourglass just because of how much I enjoy using spells. So, yeah. $5 as I trigger that feature every episode.
Ah, the smell of successful alchemy. Ugh.
The Baron is okay. The Red Sonja is okay. Israfel and the Hornrunner are both okay. Sweet. So before I continue my rant about the floors, where do our next talent points go? Where? Oh, where? I'd love to go down this Ire tree here. Because we're generating, we're using a lot of Wrath, but we're also kind of generating Wrath. I really enjoy this one, the plus 36 spell power. It comes out of nowhere. Like, I never pay attention to when I have 100 Wrath. And it's just there. It's like, oh, I suddenly have almost 100 spell power. It's very nice. Also, this 5 heal, it's small and it doesn't seem much. But like, over the course of a battle, this ramps up. But I think we want to go towards FOD. Not because I want to make a FOD build or anything. We're currently not a FOD build. But being able to use Finger of Death to remove block and wards from a priority target is pretty nifty. It's pretty good. And I'm thinking specifically like a boss type entity that just has a gazillion blocks and wards and so much health. It would prevent us from wasting some of our abilities. I'm also thinking of the last boss because I want to try and one-turn that. But the last boss is far away. Also the Grand Magister, but he has his own complications. All right. There it is.
It will be a messy slaughter.
So this little tree down here is the passive Ire tree. I really enjoy it, and it does have its own... It's kind of unique. If at the start of its turn, a minion gains 2 initiative for 2 turns, if Iratus has at least 25 Wrath. The Drums of War, I have felt them not being here, because everything has so much initiative. So this will help us kind of overcome some of that initiative gap, but again, as we discovered last time, there are some enemies that we're just not going to go before, such as the Swordsman. 18 initiative is a lot of initiative. Screw the Swordsman. The Frenzied Howling. At the start of its turn, a minion gains 4 dread for 1 turn if Iratus has at least 50 Wrath. A pretty nifty thing to pick up for stress builds. It's kind of irrelevant to us, but it's on the path to the heal every turn, so we take those. There's the Alchemist Ring. Don't care. Now I was thinking of which direction to go here, and a part of me, the meme part of my brain, was saying, give Kyurevets a chance to redeem himself and take the altar. Redeem himself from the last thing, not the overall performance. Overall performance has been great. But the responsible choice, I think, is to go to the right here and hit this steel artifact and item. So we're going to do that. As boring as that may be. We have a Fallen Knight, Bard, and Elven Scout. Lots of block and ward, huh? How do I want to do this? I guess you're delaying. And we just start killing the Bard.
Ooh, I hope there will still be enough left to react.
This is a very all-in philosophy that I'm taking right here. And you're going to see it much later on. Like, this is my approach to the 5th boss as well. The original final boss. This is a 50-50 redirect. So I'm going to shoot the Bard who is in this 50-50 redirect. And either it's going to hit the Bard, which is a good thing, and I like that. Or it's going to go to the Fallen Knight and we just start killing the Fallen Knight. I just do that. And it usually works. See, that's the one instance where it doesn't work. I had to say that. I just had to go, oh yeah, it usually works. Everything's going to be fine. Jinxed it. But anyway, speaking of the 5th floor, that was... okay. Okay, you can stop now.
Rivers will run red.
I remembered the potion existed. Yep, saw that coming too.
Make them suffer.
Are you dead? You have 7 hit points. But you used those 7 hit points to do something ridiculous. Okay. Also, I'm going to interrupt the stamps from now on. That's a good idea to control. But speaking of the 5th floor. The 5th floor, the original final floor. Delay. The original final floor.
Take everything from those who defend it.
They're kind of... Okay, you can still move. They are... It is a bit of a jack of all trades, kind of. It has some very, very annoying enemies. And it kind of teaches you about the dangers of stacking buffs. And I learned that last time. That was a lesson to learn. Think I can kill this? I can't fate if I use Hail of Teeth, but I think there's enough damage here. Either I kill it or it dies to the burn, so sure. Ah, so close. If you had crit. If only you had luck. I guess I'm just delaying until this thing is dead, huh? But the 5th floor... Last time, there's an enemy that I've pretty much ignored.
Ah, your frail bodies fail.
In the grand scheme of things. And it's an enemy that becomes more resistant to damage as his friends die. And last run, I learned that I probably shouldn't ignore them. Because that damage mitigation is insane.
Now
But oh well.
that's gonna leave a mark.
We'll see if I actually learned my lesson. Spoiler alert, probably not. And there's a...
You know, if this keeps up, I'll be done purging the world ahead of schedule.
I do think the 5th floor's primary threat is still physical damage, but there is some magic damage that can catch you off guard. And there's new support stuff and all sorts of nuisances crawling around in the sacrosanct halls of the humans. You know how it be. Barbarian, Swordmaster, Elite Rogue, and Dampier. 300 Digger Souls awaiting for usage. Guess I'll toss that. Guess I'll toss that.
No gold, but it will do.
We also haven't used our vulnerability potions, which I probably should. I don't have any consumables to use, do I? I had this. Nah, I ain't scared of no ghost. This is gonna be perfectly fine. And I think I'm gonna science. Because science is fun. The Swordmaster, I believe, is still the primary threat. So this goes through ward, if I remember correctly. Yeah, no. I don't like that. This stance actually, it normally does absolutely nothing. Just because, you know, we don't have evasion. But with the swordsman and his absolutely atrocious... I should have tested this, huh? Let's see. His absolutely atrocious accuracy, it'll proc it still. So this should increase all damage that he receives, including the damage of the ashes.
your frail bodies fail you.
Maybe. Do you think I'm some kind of clown? Maybe. That's my newest favorite response to that. Alright, die. Yep, instead of 19 it was 23. Great, so that's one way we can kind of push just a tiny bit more damage. Just a tiny bit. Just a small little bit of
My
damage.
kingdom comes.
Rune 2. I really don't care about Rune. I don't even know when I started following it. But it came out recently and they've had like this event where you can kill the devs and you get stuff for killing the devs. That's always a good fun time, but I really don't care. So, I should probably unfollow them. But anyway, now that we've talked about the 5th floor in a very vague capacity, let's talk about the 6th floor in an also vague capacity. One thing that they mentioned is this redstone here. In like the teaser for Wrath of the Necromancer, which by the way, I went over every blog post that was teasing Wrath of the Necromancer. I went in. I should have interrupted this stance. Whatever. We'll kill the barbarian.
Savor these last few heartbeats.
The 6th floor, they mentioned that all of the enemies on the 6th floor in some way would benefit their allies whenever they died. And I was just, in my brain at the time, I was like, oh, whatever. It would probably just be some stupid thing. And, well, it turns out it was a stupid thing. But it wasn't a stupid thing in the insignificant kind of stupid way. It was a stupid thing in the, what am I doing sort of way. Like, some of them you can ignore, and then some of them, ignoring them is a catastrophe. It's the fastest way to die. You know? And there's some enemies on the 6th floor that are just... Ooh, they're in a league of their own. A league of their own. For example... No, that's not enough to kill you. And as an example of something being in a league of its own, not of it being a huge threat, is the Amazon. The Amazon is the 6th floor's 2-position enemy, and they have, on Eternal Harvest 3, they had 196% accuracy. And the elite ones had 200%.
Mop up
So,
the gore. I'd hate to see plants using it as fertilizer.
I'm just going to assume, you know what happens when you assume, but in this case, I think it's safe to assume that the baseline one is going to have 200% accuracy too, on Eternal Harvest 5. I think that's a safe, solid bet. So that's just one example of the final floor having lots of very specific counters that just ruin your day. But anyway, let's talk about the artifact, shall we? The Bracers of Madness. Minions gain 5 initiative but lose 15 accuracy. This could be a way to actually catch up in the turn order. But I hate missing. And minus 15 is quite a bit. The Ring of Purity unlocks a secret ire spell. I thought it was a magic spell. Anyway, removes all buffs from an enemy, restores 5 mana for each buff removed. Spell power reduces the mana spent. Now, I've actually always liked the Ring of Purity, because it helps you in those situations where there's, like, for example, a boss or a single buffed target like the Swordsman that has a Bard buff. The Ring of Purity is far more efficient than pressing the Dispel button. But Solus correctly pointed out, pretty sure it was Solus, that the Ring of Purity is taking up a very valuable item slot. The ring slot is incredibly valuable. That's where the Shackles of War goes. So this needs to be better than what it is for it to actually compete with other rings. And for example, we're getting 12 Wrath a turn for our build that uses nothing but Wrath. So I actually agree that now that Solus pointed out, this needs to be better for it to compete in the ring slot. It's still, I think, okay, but nah. The Symbol of Fortune, minions gain 13 luck and minus 13 accuracy until the battle ends. I hate missing. Have I ever actually used this? I don't even know which one of these to pick up. I guess like the ring.
Toss it with the rest.
It's the one I like the most, but it's more of like a default sort of thing. Barbarian, Swordsman, Elite Rogue, and Dhampir. Okay. This is going to be a very straightforward, just burn it down. So I've been taking this time to think if I wanted to do the boss today. Because originally I was like, we probably aren't going to get to the boss, and if we do, it's going to be at the very end, and maybe we would be running into an hour, which is perfectly fine by me. I don't care. The Monster Train video that came out yesterday, 1 hour and 40 minutes.
Make them suffer.
And that's how you know a game is good, when you've recorded for 1 hour and 40 minutes and it doesn't feel like it. I'm so addicted to that game. I played a little bit off camera finally. So the next Monster Train episode, for those interested, is going to involve the Exiled Champions. Basically the second hero that you unlock for the class. I have the Hellhorn and the Awoken unlocked. So I'll probably play the Awoken because I love them so much. No, I'll play Hellhorn. I want to do it in the same order again. So Hellhorn, then Awoken, and then Stygian Guard, which I should have unlocked by then. It should be fine. It's fine. And Tinker's awake. Well, Tinker has awoken. That's fine. By the power of editing. Her bark has been removed. And I have totally... Oh yeah, the Stygian Guard.
Maybe I'll craft this one.
I don't know how I feel about them. Oh, there's our first inspiration in a long time. Mighty. Yeah, that sounds about right. Anyway, have fun burning. I don't know how I feel about the Stygian Guard. I like them. They're weird. But, I don't know. And I've kind of heard that from other people, where they really enjoy the Stygian Guard, but they don't like the baseline champion, which is who I played. So, maybe I'll be able to unlock the Exile and we can see what all the hubbub's about. By the way, if you do want to unlock the Fallen Dampier, I know it's just a little late. But if you do, concentration. Meh. Boo. If you do want to unlock the Fallen Dampier, you have to make the Dampiers go insane. And if she is alone while insane, the battle will end and she will join you. And you have to do that 3 times before you can create the Dampier. Sorry it took me so long to say that. I just kind of was, ranting in my own world. Which is, that's how I expected this to go.
Make them suffer.
Also, apparently she gains attacks for each vampire in our squad, which is weird. I totally didn't know that. Or forgot. Or both. Really? I guess the question now is... Actually, this is really bad, question mark? If I use Terra Blast, will she counter? Or will she counter 5 times? If she just counters once, we're good. I actually don't know the answer to that question. I'm pretty sure she just counters once. But we can be safe. Once? Yes. Okay, good. I figured it was only once. It would be way too strong if it countered for every single multi-hit. Because then players would use that. By players, I mean I would use that.
As your
it would be beautiful.
Ends, your service begins.
Although there aren't too many I mean, there's a swordsman. There's a swordsman, the geomancer, the champion. Maybe one more. The miner. Yeah, there aren't too many multi-hits in the game. Relentless Evil. At the start of its turn, a minion restores 5 vigor if Iratus has at least 75 wrath.
I need nothing but my anger to purge this world.
As I mentioned previously, this is not a lot of healing. But it is healing. And it can add up over the course of a long fight. So I think we're going to go in and kill this boss. I have a pretty good plan to approach. Or plan to approach him with. As for our coffin, it's pretty terrible. Yeah. Here's a Glutton's Tongue. We talked about this earlier. At the start of the battle, increases damage dealt by 0.1% for each available part in the chamber of Iratus. Actually, I don't think I described it. I just said that we got another one. This item in particular can be used to scale damage higher than anything else in the game. But that does fall under the requirement that you actually just sit there and hoard a bunch of parts. Which I suppose is more practical now that you can use Digger Souls to upgrade minion parts, but less practical, and that you have to use parts to make potions now. I guess you don't have to. One fun trick with the Glutton's Tongue I'll talk about that in a minute, because I can show you. The leg cuff, minion can't be moved. Talked about this. Decent. And the spiked head, any character that attacks this minion receives 40 stress damage. I've used the spiked head on one singular character that I think it's okay on, and that is the skeleton. Because the skeleton can enter a stance where he wardens another person and takes hits for them, and then counterattacks the enemy that hit him for stress damage. This would just kind of multiply it. But 40 stress damage is kind of on the low end. Anyway,
amazing.
This leg cuffs. So with the Glutton's Tongue, farming parts, there's a creation called the Headhunter. And his bounty, his wrath ability, which deals a ridiculous amount of damage and ignores block, can be upgraded into Profitable Bounty, which makes it so that if this attack kills an enemy, Iratus gains +1 additional part after the victory. So you can use the Headhunter to farm parts, to empower Glutton's Tongue, to make more potions, to gamble, whatever your heart desires, really. Whatever dark desires lurk beneath that smile of yours. Really. Okay, but for the boss, we're going to be using the Terrifying Visage. All minions receive 10% extra damage dealt until the end of combat.
It embellishes my undead features.
I've always felt that this wording was weird. I'm also going to just... I didn't do this yet, did I? I'm going to distill for the plus 10% damage done and reduced damage received. And we're going to go slay the Bounty Hunter. I have rolled this boss. For the first time you play through Wrath of the Necromancer, you always get the new bosses. But I rolled him in Eternal Harvest 3, and here we are in Eternal Harvest 5, repeating history, as it is wont to do. So let's see if we can kill him. A former lycanthrope, this man used to hunt bounties as a giant bipedal wolf, bringing in his targets with ease. Unfortunately, at some point he encountered a rather meddlesome hero who cured him of his curse, leaving only a lingering connection to canines. After feeding the ever-so-helpful hero to a starving pack, the bounty hunter had to start over, now using dogs to help him hunt. Unfortunately, more dogs means more mouths to feed, and more mouths means higher costs of doing business. So he is stuck, fighting against the tide of undeath simply because the money is too good to pass up. If it makes you feel any better, good bounty hunter. In death, there is no need for shiny trinkets and gold. Well, except for alchemy. Transmutation is always nifty. So this is the bounty hunter. He is a 2-position enemy, and he does not escape, cannot be moved, takes up 2 adjacent positions, acts twice each turn. Whenever the bounty hunter uses an ability, he gains a buff charge and increases initiative by 2. After accumulating 5 charges, he uses a special ability and loses all charges. He's not the only one that has this charge system, and each character that has this charge system should never, ever, ever, ever be allowed to use their special ability. Under no circumstance whatsoever. Each battlefield appears to be marked, substantially increases the likelihood of being attacked. Great. How much initiative do you have? 12! Okay, great. Wunderbar. I could remove that. That is a thing I can do. And I'm going to. There's no penalty for using a spell here. So with the spell, we'll remove this
End of magic.
We will break 1 word from everything. Yay! Now we delay. There is a chance of redirecting an attack to an ally standing ahead of him. So, you know the aggro drill, right? We're going to take our attack, point it at the bounty hunter's face, and press the button.
Hope there will still be enough left to reanimate.
Either it hits the bounty hunter, or it doesn't. And then we kill the thing that's standing in front of it. That is my approach to dealing with redirection. In case you were curious. Now these are summoned minions, which makes me think they can be resummoned. Which is kind of annoying, but also unsurprising. If you don't mind.
End of magic.
So I used the spell there because it removed his 2 charges that he had, and it got rid of the last ward of this crossbowman, so we can freely throw out our attacks and just kind of pray to the dark gods that it does something. War Infectious Lunacy next turn, too. kind of curious how many stacks you have. 13! 13 is a lot. 13 is a good number. A very unlucky number, actually, in the West. Numbers are actually not quite the same throughout the numerous cultures. I know, how surprising, right? Different cultures, different significance on numbers. One that always makes me laugh. Ow! I don't think the barbarian can reach you. Yeah, one that always... I don't know, maybe laugh isn't the correct word. But one that surprises me the most, and perhaps the biggest example, is that in Chinese culture...
Madness manifest.
The numerical 666 is actually good luck. And it has something to do with
Carve open
how it's pronounced, or what that means. Whereas in most Western culture, it is a very not good number. Because it's the mark of the beast in the Bible. Alright, so you're dead, you're alive. I don't want to do this then. Guess we just kill you then. It would be very annoying if we hit the bounty hunter. Okay. It will be quite annoying if we hit the bounty hunter.
End of magic.
I want to get rid of this stun. And he redirects it to things that are going to die anyway.
Everything
which is this thing.
Those you defended.
Yeah, that's 250 damage. He ain't taking 250. But if I killed them outright, then there was a chance he could summon them on his turn, because I don't actually remember if he resummons them right away, or how that functions, or anything like that. So, you know. How do I want to do this? I guess we're gonna... Am I? I kind of just want to keep setting him on fire. That's where most of our damage is coming from. Okay.
Extinction of life.
Unfortunately, it did fall off quite a bit because of the redirections, but that's fine. If it falls off, just put it back on. Makes sense, doesn't it? Part of me was debating using the physical wrath attack to... Yeah, there's the summon. The physical wrath attack to peel off this block to then reap him. But he looks dead to me. He looks pretty dead. So I need to be defensive. How do I do that?
Your frail bodies fail.
We do our best to kill 0. That's how we do that. We might fail. We might succeed. I definitely put that on you. How much damage are those do? Ooh, only half. Oh, good. You entered your stance. Congratulations, everyone!
Another step towards my eternal kingdom.
Hey, we got the mutant claw back. Increases damage dealt to elite enemies by 25%. Wonderful, wonderful. You love to see it. So I've been thinking here about how, if we're gonna try and one-shot the last boss, or not one-shot, but kill them in one turn, we need our Blood Phantasm to have as much damage multiplication against them as humanly possible. And I think that's going to come down to using potions with the Science Mantle. So like the Potion of Vulnerability on him and the Potion of Berserker on the Blood Phantasm. And 2 items. Our magic spell will of course be Fate to guarantee the crit. And then we want the Mutant Claw, because a boss is an elite enemy, I'm pretty sure. And the Gambling Coin, or Funeral Coin. I don't know why I kept calling it the Gambling Coin, but it's called the Funeral Coin. Which increases crit damage dealt by 30% and reduces crit damage received by 30%. And because we're using Fate, we guarantee the crit. So we have the 25% multiplier from the Mutant Claw and the 30% multiplier from the Funeral Coin. And I'm pretty sure that's as high as it goes. Like, I don't think there's any other combination we could use to make it more. Besides the Glutton Tongue, of course, if we had enough parts. But we would need a lot of parts to make that work. Or getting really lucky with the Halo of Chaos and rolling 30% damage. But because RNG is a fickle thing, I would much rather have the Mutant Claws guaranteed. That's my current plan. Let me know what you fellow memers and theory crafters think. I really want to kill him in one turn. That would make me so happy. But before we get there, we must clear the catacombs, which we shall breach next time. The catacombs is the base of the living's magical research. So we'll see if we have what it takes to slap away their petty magic and show them how a real Archmage parties. Thanks for watching. I hope that you enjoyed, and I will see you next time for some indiscriminate magical carnage.